Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I am here to do Josh's Preserves book tag. This tag was originally created by Josh from Literary Gladiators, and he was also the one who tagged me, so thank you so much, Josh. I will of course link his original video down below, and he always does such wonderful and creative tag questions. Number 1. Chutney. A work you found sassy and straightforward. I am going with Bryony and Roses by T. Kingfisher. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's actually very short and relatively similar to the original story in a lot of ways, especially at the beginning. So that's why I kind of picked it for the straightforward question. The writing is so good, and the main character, Bryony, is definitely sassy, but not in the really obnoxious way where she just like rushes headlong into danger, because that's what we've come to expect from like strong female characters. I really love her and how clever and fun she is, and this is just a really great book. I actually think this would be a really great one to start out with if you're kind of interested in retellings but you're not really sure kind of how to begin, because it is so short, it is so engaging and fun. And it's also got some kind of great creepiness aspects to it as well, so there's a lot going on. Number 2 is Confit, a work that made you feel greasy, grimy, gritty, or induced with perspiration. This is actually kind of perfect because actually in my review for By Felipe, This is Dick Pics and Other Delights of Modern Dating by Alexandra Tweeten, I actually said in that video that some of these text message exchanges that men sent to people on the internet, they honestly did make you feel like you want to go and take a shower because they are so gross and graphic. I will of course link my review down below, but yeah. In a lot of ways this was a really great and important book, but there's definitely some parts of it that are extremely unpleasant to read. Number 3 is Conserve? I don't know how to say that. The oldest work you read that you feel is relevant to today. I'm going with Antigone by Sophocles. It is the third in his Theban plays cycle, and this is a very, very old play, a few thousand years old, and I think it's still incredibly current and relevant to today. The basic storyline of that play is about how Antigone wants to bury her brothers because she knows it is what's right. She knows that her religion tells her it's right, her morals, everything kind of in her is saying that this is the right thing to do, but the king has forbidden it. So there's that conflict between what a person knows and believes is right and what the law of the land says. And I think that is definitely a very important and relevant message today, because just because something is legal, that does not mean it is the moral thing to do. And I think that there are just a lot of kind of messages of civil disobedience in that play that I think make it a really important play always, but especially in this current time. Number 4 is Fruit Butter, a work you felt was rightfully reworked to make it accessible. And I'm going to go with Love and Friendship by Jane Austen. It looks like it's a long novel, but this is actually a collection of a lot of her shorter works, and she wrote it when she was very young. It's considered part of her juvenilia, and it's an epistolary novel, and the movie version that I'm going to be talking about is called Love and Friendship, but the actual epistolary novelette that it's based on is called Lady Susan. It's very confusing. I don't know why they changed the name of the movie, but it's just such a fantastic example of Jane Austen's wit and her really acid sense of humor sometimes. There are some great characters that you love to hate, or there's some that like are not good people and you don't like them, but you kind of respect their hustle. Like Lady Susan gets shit done, and I cannot recommend the film version enough. I think it's very short too. It's like an hour and a half, and it's so well done. Like they managed to capture the tone of Jane Austen's words really well, while also managing to kind of flesh out this series of letters into a full story with a whole cast of characters and kind of other storylines. I think it'd be great for people who are just getting started with Austen, because it really grabs you right away, and you definitely get a taste of kind of Austen's humor and style without maybe having to dive right into one of her longer novels. So highly recommend. Although the original is good too, but like I said, that movie is just a fantastic adaptation. Number 5, Fruit Curd, a source you have used to help you better understand a work. So the book I'm going to talk about is Circe by Madeline Miller, but the source answer is actually all of the Greek mythology books that I read when I was younger and that got me really interested in mythology from all different cultures. And I think that having that background was really great, because I went into this novel, which is like a kind of feminist retelling or inspiration of the character of Circe and how she became a witch and her banishment to the island, and like seeing all of these events from Circe's perspective. And I think having that grounding in Greek mythology was really important, because one of the things I was most impressed with through this book was like, it wasn't like Madeline Miller just ignored all like the Odyssey and all of these other stories. It was like she just changed our perspective a little bit, so that there were things that happened in this book where I'm like, I never thought to wonder about why things happened this way in the original myth, but this makes sense. It's like we just got this glimpse of the story that was being told by somebody else, if that makes sense. I don't know if it would have helped me or hurt me if I had actually read the Odyssey story before diving into this, because in a way it was kind of nice to be surprised by some of these like famous events in this novel, because it had been a really long time since I had read anything about the Odyssey, and I kind of liked that. I kind of liked being surprised by an adaptation of a couple thousand years old story. Number 6 is Jam, a writer who shows and tells without issue. I'm going with Tahereh Mafi, and specifically in her middle grade fantasy novels, Furthermore and Witchwood, which I just finished. I'm actually featuring Tahereh Mafi's work in an author video I have coming up, so if that's already up, I will definitely link that down below. But I am so impressed with how beautiful and like musical her language is, because I feel like sometimes when you get that very poetic writing style, the story and the characters can kind of get lost in it. Like the words sound pretty together but you don't actually know what's going on, and that never happened to me with Tahereh Mafi. Like she has some pretty long descriptions of like food and settings and costumes and everything, but I actually didn't have a hard time picturing the reality of the world kind of underneath all of that like pretty description. Number 7 is Jelly, a genre you binge when you want to relax. And pretty much I think it's the genres I normally enjoy reading. Like fantasy and fairy tale retellings are ones that I really like to kind of cozy up with, you know, with a blanket, and I'm thinking like very fall and winter kind of relaxation right now because that's the season that we're in. But I also really enjoy rereading classics when I just want to relax, like classics that I have really reread over and over, like The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen is always a favorite, so it's kind of like comfort food reads. Number 8 is Marmalade, a sharp work of British literature. And this is kind of embarrassing, but I had picked out Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster, which is another epistolary novel, actually, that I really love, and this is another kind of comfort food reread for me. But I realized that Jean Webster is actually American, and I just kind of assumed she was British because it feels like a very kind of British classic book, and it was written in the time period I tend to associate with British classics. Which, like, I don't know why I forgot that, because she actually talks about the Votes for Women movement, and I think it's like specifically in the American context, so there's no excuse for this, but I do still highly recommend this book. For my actually British answer, I'm going to go with The Plays of Noel Coward, and I'm actually realizing I need to read a lot more of his work, but the one I'm going to mention in particular is Private Lives. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of kind of classic comedy of manners and mismatched romantic couples and everything. Just so you all are aware though, that play does have some language that would not be appropriate. Number 9 is Cranberry Sauce, which is my favorite jelly or preserve or anything. A work you have read and associate with a holiday. I know Harry Potter is a very popular answer for around Christmas time and kind of the winter holidays. I'm gonna go with the Charlie Bone books by Jenny Nimmo, or the Children of the Red King series. This is Charlie Bone and the Beast, which is book number 6, and it is one of my favorites. This series is so good, and I think a lot of times it actually suffers for the comparison with Harry Potter, because even though they both have magical school settings, and in some ways Harry and Charlie are kind of similar, like a little bit similar characters, they're really very different stories, but I do feel like the atmosphere kind of reminds me of Harry Potter a little bit. And for some reason this is just a series that I associate with cozying up in the winter and reading or rereading, and I kind of want to reread the whole thing this winter, so maybe I'll be doing that in December, but I highly recommend this series. It's got a lot of depth to it too, like Harry Potter does, in like the struggle between good and evil, and like how people are not always what they appear to be, and just all of these characters are really close to my heart, and I cannot recommend this series enough. Number 10 is What is your favorite preserve? And I actually already answered that. It's cranberry sauce. I love it so much. I would put it on anything if I could get away with it, I think. And finally, number 11 is Who do you tag? And I'm going to tag Mia from Select Pages and Kathleen from Worth 1,000 Words, and of course anybody else who would like to do this tag. Let me know what you think of any of these books or any of my answers for these books. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!